Welcome to Building SaaS with Python and Django. My name is Matt Lehman, and on this stream, we work on Django apps and do Python development and all of that sort of stuff. And I walk you through the process of building an application from scratch, which I guess 2 years ago I started this project. It's not really from scratch anymore. It's more like, how do you maintain an ongoing project? So we will probably do some that worked this evening, but I want to try something new. Tonight we're going to try out getting into how you learn as a person getting into Python. I get this question a lot. I run a local meetup in my town in Maryland where I live, and I thought I don't really have great answers for that. But at work I've been learning Go recently, and I've been doing that because my company uses Go for a lot of our services, and I don't have the familiarity I need with it. Because some of our stuff is in Python and some is in Go, and so it's because it was a merger of two companies. So I thought, why not start with a way that you can learn Python? And I'm going to take it from the point of view as obviously I'm someone who does know Python already, but I'd like to try out some exercises and see how it goes, and maybe offer some of my thoughts as we work through some of that stuff. And so we're going to use a learning platform that I've been using for the Go stuff. And that learning platform is called Exercism. Exercism is a programming exercise site. It's designed to give you a place to work on your programming skills and use automated checks to test that your code is correct. And so you can learn a programming language at your own pace and figure stuff out. So we're going to try and set that up on this machine so that you can see that process too if you wanted to do it yourself. And we'll try out some exercises and see how it goes, and I'll add myself to the Python track, and we'll poke around on Exercism. And if it goes well, maybe we'll do this as like the first half of the stream each time, and then get back to the building SaaS application. Just trying to mix it up a little bit and give you a little offering of something different. So you are free to ask me anything about Python, Django, or web development. That's what I'm here for. But we'll also explore Exercism. So let's dig into this. Here's the website. It has a lot of stuff going on, but you can go to the Tracks tab. So you log in, you create an account. You can log in with GitHub, I think, or you can create accounts in more traditional ways. But the easiest way I found was you already have a GitHub account, was just to log in that way. And when you go to the tracks, what you're going to find is a list of programming languages that are available for you to do work against, for you to learn and grow in doing. And there are not a small number of them. There are 61 here. You can see that I am in the Go track currently, and I started the Rust track a long time ago, but didn't really pursue it too far. So I've done a lot more stuff on this Go track, and I'm curious as to how the other ones go, how the other ones feel as someone who's an experienced programmer. So let's just scan through these briefly, and you'll see some popular languages. They are, and some not so popular languages. And that's actually kind of cool that there's some more esoteric stuff that you can learn if you're interested and just expand your knowledge. So a lot of these are your classic C-based language, but there are functional language, like here's an example with Clojure, and Common Lisp, and all sorts of stuff. Looking through this list, they range in the number of exercises that are offered and concepts. So a lot of these, or many of these, will have what you can see as this learning mode kind of label on them, which means that they're more designed for you to actually learn the language, whereas some of these other languages are more about, here's just some exercises for you to practice. And so the difference that you may notice is that the learning languages have these concepts that go along with them. So they're trying to teach you, they've got like essentially lessons and guides of here's how you actually use this language. And then there are exercises to pair along with them. So as we scroll down, we can see some of the languages are more fleshed out than others. Elixir looks like it has a ton of stuff in it. Probably tells you something about the developers who work on the site and who's interested. But we're going to keep scrolling all the way down, and maybe we'll try out some other of these languages in the future, or I'll revisit some old haunts. Like here's Perl. That I did Perl many years ago. But you can see there's Python. Python has 131 exercises, so there's no shortage of what we could do. And there are 14 concepts to learn. And so you can scan the rest and see, you can even learn assembly if you're interested in learning x86. Also, maybe there's something worth exploring about this WebAssembly stuff. That's some interesting technology. So let's look at Python. Basically tells you what type Python is. I don't really need to know what Python is. I'm very well acquainted with it, but Python is a dynamic and strongly typed object-oriented programming language. Okay. And I'm sure it'll explain a lot of what those concepts even mean if you wanted to click on stuff. What I found about Exercism is that it does a good job of actually explaining what you're doing. It provides links to documentation if you need help. So it doesn't just let you go off on your own completely. There is some expectation that you will have to explore, and that's actually very typical for a programming language. You can't just expect any material to be sufficient for all that you need. There's programming languages are usually very rich and have a lot in their ecosystem, and so it's not as easy as just saying, well, I've got the one resource that covers it all, as I'm discovering writing my own book on Django. So let's join this track and see what this looks like for Python, and try out some stuff and set things up and give you some exposure to what this will look like. We'll maybe try an exercise or two, maybe look at a concept, and then we'll go through it, see if we can come up with some successful solutions to the exercise, and you'll see what that process all looks like. So I'm going to click the Join the Python track, and it starts off with your classic exercise of Hello World. And you can see we have lots to unlock. So we can go to this exercise. We can also go to a syllabus, which has those concepts that we talked about, and it's kind of walks you through a tree of concepts. So you cannot advance until you do some of the earlier stuff. And it looks like it ends with classes, which is a pretty natural endpoint because that's what I would teach. I'm actually currently teaching my son Python, so let's see how well this resonates with the book that I'm teaching. So I'm going to start off with the basics. Let's click it and see what happens. Python is a dynamic and struggling type object-oriented language. We just saw that. Uses both duck typing and gradual typing via type hints. Okay, there's a lot to unpack in that sentence alone. I don't know how much I want to get into like each of these explanations. That could be a lot of me talking and less code. So maybe let's just skip over that and see what's in here. Talks about the Zen of Python. Oh, that all seems good. And yeah, this looks good to me. I'm trying to look at it with an eye of like, I've done this for a long time, and are they telling stuff that makes sense? So this looks like an introduction to the language. You can no doubt learn a lot. What I have found about Exercism, and maybe this is, if you're coming at this as you're a brand new programmer, this may not be the website for you. In fact, if you're a brand new programmer learning Python, the thing that I most often recommend is called Automate the Boring Stuff with Python. Sounds like a strange title, but I like it. It's a very gentle introduction to programming, and it walks you through. It's got a free book online. You can, of course, buy a print copy and support the author that way. But it walks you through a first half, which introduces you to the language, and then has some practical examples. But I found that that's a really good one. So Exercism sort of assumes a little bit of prior knowledge about how stuff works, or they kind of throw you in the deep end on these are things you need to learn, which may feel a little much, especially if you don't even know what a variable is or anything along those lines. So I'm going to scan through this. I'm not really seeing anything there, but it should. Where did the link go? Why is it saying I can't click this? Guido's gorgeous lasagna. All right, learning exercise. In my previous courses, I've been able to click an exercise on the side that's associated with a concept, and this does not seem to be it. It's just showing a lock, so that's odd. maybe they won't unlock it until I do the very, very basic exercise. Or maybe there's something a little off about their sequencing here. Locked? Why is it locked? All right, let's go back to the Python track and then try out the, maybe you have to, okay, maybe this is it. Maybe you can't do anything until you've done the hello world. Yeah, that's it, look. So there's kind of this cool little map of your progress essentially. And it shows you which ones are unlocked, just this white circle here, and which ones you still have to, which ones are locked and not accessible to you. So you have to like essentially open up a tree of exercises. They don't want you jumping straight to the hardest exercise at the bottom without having some experience in some other stuff. So let's go to the Hello World exercise and see how it goes. Completing it unlocks, completing unlocks the rest of the Python track. Sometimes you should just click the big button, I guess. Now, what I have found with Exercism is, although there is an in-browser editor, which you can use if that's your setup, I would recommend getting your local environment in position to do actual exercises. I did this with Go. It forced me to make sure that my editor was configured with Go so that from now on I'm comfortable jumping into a Go project using my Vim editor in my normal mode of editing. Because if you think about it, a web editor, while convenient, is not going to be how you do most of your web development. I say that and at the same time realize that GitHub offers like online editors and that sort of stuff that allow you to use everything in the cloud. So for most people, I think, you're going to use a regular editor that you download. Maybe VS Code is your editor of choice, but for me, it's Vim. So we're going to look at how to get this stuff going locally, because I haven't set up here. Learn more about solving exercises locally. So we need to install some stuff. First, we have to install a command line tool, and then we have to configure things. I'm going to have to hide some stuff at various points, but you'll see how this goes. And then we have the download option. Yeah, okay. So I'll get to that later. So let's start with the installing. I am on Mac OS, and I guess they ask you which are you on. So, and can I use Homebrew? So Homebrew is the tool that I've installed, and I'm comfortable doing that. So I'm going to say yes to that. So we're going to do a brew install exercism. I don't need to update everything because this is a pretty brand new computer, so that doesn't really make sense. So let's get out of the homeschool area. Let's create a new tab. I don't want to update OMyZSH right now. And we're gonna put this, well, I think Exercism actually creates its own directory later, so it doesn't really matter where we put this right now. But we're gonna say brew, well, I've got the command pasted, brew install Exercism. And I'm hoping that doesn't update the whole world. I didn't really think about that beforehand. Yeah, we might have to wait a minute. Bummer. One of my parts about, wow, look at that. I was about to speak not too fondly of Homebrew in this way, but it managed to do it without too much trouble. All right, new tab just to make sure that the exercism command is available in this shell. But now we should have this exercism command option, and we can say exercism version, and we can see it's version 3.1.0, which I think is what they tell us. It should be at least 3.x, which is what we've got. Okay, so we've got the exercism CLI, command line interface, that's what that is. And now we need to go to the settings page and to get a token. Now, because I don't want to share my token with everyone in the whole world, I am going to go away for a minute. I think I might be able to voice over this. I think my intermission scene or be back scene allows my audio to come through, but I'm going to try and set this up. I will be right back, but essentially I'm going to run this command and get the token from my settings page. So I don't know if you can hear me or not, but I'm going to my settings page and I'll just talk through it. I'm glad I did that because the token is really obvious. And the reason I'm not showing it is because they say to keep it private, because that would allow anybody to submit stuff on my behalf. So I'm doing exercism configure, which I think was the command they use, and then token equals, and then the token value that I've pasted in from my settings page. I'm going to run that. Oh, good. You can hear me. Very good. And it gives me some output information about where stuff was stored. So you can, it says like a configuration directory, and you can get your token in the future, and where everything was put. But I'm going to clear that tab so I don't show it by mistake. And then I'm going to get rid of my settings page so y'all can't see that. And then, okay, I'm back. Thanks for the confirmation, Vadim, that you could hear me. So it put everything in my home directory at, I think it did. Where did it put it? Well, that's silly. I wasn't paying enough attention to where it said it put it. All right, it was some kind of exercism directory. Is it in documents? Oh, goodness. That's allow. Where did it go? Well, let's see if we're where the command, what the command tells us. There might be a way to like navigate directly to it. Ah, there it is. This must be a common problem because look at that. There's a whole command just for saying where's your workspace. Exercism. Was I just blind to seeing that? I'm in my home directory. What? Hi, John. Welcome. So I'm in Matt. It says that I should be able to go to Exercism, but there's nothing there. Oh, you know what it is? I haven't downloaded anything yet, so it has not created my workspace. So it's telling me where stuff's going to go, but it hasn't done it. I'm guessing that's what it is. Okay, so we've got, we now have everything configured locally for Exercism to run. And you can click the little clipboard here and copy it, and go to the command line tool. And yeah, there we go. So now if we go, now Exercism should be there. We're in the Python section, and we're going to go to the first exercise of Hello World. One of the things that I like about Exercism is that you don't have to use the web instructions that are here. Every exercise is pretty self-contained. There is a set of help information for how to run tests and all of this. And let's see. Oh, there's some stuff we need to look up. Okay. Well, let's read that in a moment. There's also a README for every lesson that is basically, or maybe identically, the thing that you see on here, just rendered. This is the rendered version, but this is the markdown that powers it. Kind of gets jammed together in the same way. And there's a little bit more setup, it seems, for Python. So maybe we will do, let's follow along with the help and do some setup. And this is, with Go, I had to install Go and I had to do some stuff. So every language does, you should be expected that, you know, your computer's not going to be ready to go right away. So let's follow the help page and see what it says. We're going to use PyTest as our website test runner. Okay. So you need to install PyTest. All right, that's cool. You'll also need to install the following PyTest plugins: PyTest Cache and PyTest Subtests. Okay. Cool. So what I'm going to do is, it sounds like all of these exercises are going to use PyTest. So I'm going to create one virtual environment in the path above the exercise directory so that we can activate that once and have a common kind of place for this stuff, because it's all going to be the same. And then we'll just use that going forward. So here we are. We're in the Python directory for Exercism. We'll do Python 3 minus m to use the module virtual environment, and we'll create a directory called virtual environment, venv. So now we have that extra directory, and we'll use source venv bin activate to turn on the virtual environment. And this just creates an isolated place for our packages, so we don't pollute the operating system with a bunch of Python extra goodies. So now that it's created there, I should be able to do pip install. I'm going to install PyTest and PyTest cache, which I don't even know what that is. I should look that up. And then PyTest subtest, which I think I am familiar with to a degree. Okay, cool. So now we have PyTest installed, and then I'm going to do, just because I'm on ZSH and there's some weird stuff that used to happen, I don't know if it'll still happen, but now PyTest should be available. All right, good. Let's go to Hello World, and let's try running PyTest, see what happens. Aha! So already we've got some really useful feedback. And I think this is one of the beautiful things about Exercism, is that essentially they give you a problem, but they give you enough automated tests that are pretty good. And they test for a lot of edge conditions and other stuff that you should be anticipating when you write code. And they really make you think through everything you need to do. And so the tests are designed to be ready to go. And yeah, so I think we're ready to start. The other thing that I can do, this is interesting. We'll see if this works. I wonder if I can do this directly from an editor. That'd be pretty sweet. Not in a Git repo. Yeah, that's one downside. So we've got hello here, and it says, so I tried to run my test command. Pretty positive this won't work though. Let's do source the virtual environment like that. And now let's go back into the editor and let's open the test file. And what happens if I hit test here? Oh, it worked. Glorious. So we don't even need to leave. I don't need, like with the Go one, I was kind of having to leave my editor and do executed terminal because I didn't configure my my Vim setup to execute tests as quickly as I can with Python. We should be able to get that here. So here's the problem they want us to do, and then here's the test file. And so we should be able to test this, and we know we're done when all of the tests pass. That's the nice part about this setup, is that that's what they kind of judge you on. You'll get either a pass or a failed on the website, and it's because they're running these tests to see if your code works right. So you get the same benefit locally as you would from doing it online. And online you can submit and run your test there, but there's some cycle time that has to spin through as they execute it in some virtual machine or something like that on their cloud. And so this way you get to go as fast as possible. Okay, so we know what we need to do. Our solution is to say hello world classic like that. And I've already got, so I also have black running automatically with Vim. So you can see that it reformatted my code and changed the single quotes to double quotes. So it's already taken care of that. So now here's the nice part about this. Once we're done, you can submit your solution, and we'll see what that looks like. So we'll say, over here, we'll say Exercism, submit, and then we want to submit hello world.py as the source, as the answer file. All right, once you've done that, you can come back to the website and you can go to your iterations. Now, Exercism will keep track. You can submit multiple times and you can have different versions. So let's say you've got a version that's either not passing or it is passing and you find a better way to do something. They actually encourage that to try different ways to do things. But with this one, we clearly don't need to do that at all. So it gives us our result here that it passed. I don't know what this little robot is. This is new to me. What are you? If I hover, will it say anything? Other. What does that mean? I don't think I've seen that icon before. And then this solution is so common that they're saying, all right, now you're ready to go. So let's go back to the overview, and we're going to mark this one as complete. And you can either choose to hide or share your solutions. I have nothing to hide, and happy to share if people can learn from what I've done. In this case, I don't think that will be the scenario, but as the concepts or as the problems get harder, what you do can get more interesting. So we've completed Hello World. This is just the start. Now you're ready to do some real exercises. Okay, the other one's real. Come on. Everybody needs to learn Hello World. Once you start the next exercise, you'll have access to mentoring. That's one thing I haven't mentioned about Exercism. There's a whole section about volunteers and mentoring, and there are ways that you can actually gain reputation. There's a whole gamification system with this, with badges, and it's rather extensive. But there are people that can help you if you get stuck. Now they are volunteers, and they do this for free, and they would get overwhelmed if everybody was just constantly using their mentoring system. So there's a certain amount of reputation about a certain number of problems that you have to build up before you can get mentoring, so that you're not abusing the system and trying to get help for everything. Oh, John, you're welcome. I'm glad the Flake8 bugbear helped you out some. I'm I too can always, I'm a big fan of adding more checks. Anytime you can have something automated to check your code and do it in an unambiguous way that says this is wrong, fix this, and it's usually always better, then it seems like a really strong thing to do. And especially if you're in a team setting. If you're in a team setting, you can have contentious code reviews, I guess, if you didn't have all these tools in place, because you can fight about what's the style, what should that be, or why didn't you do it this way or that way. And if you all agree to use a set of automated tools, then it takes away that contention, because everybody just has to make their stuff pass in order to merge their code. Learning about multi-stage Docker, that's a interesting process as well. Optimizing for trying to get something small. I've done that too, and that one's less fun, I think, than Bugbear, but good luck to you. All right, let's do maybe one of these concepts and one of these exercises. Now that you've gotten a feel for what Exercism is like, I've kind of walked you through Exercism itself, but I do want to focus on actual Python stuff and talking about why I think certain solutions are better than others. Hello World is not really much of a teaching example, though. So let's see what the concepts have. And then after we do one of these, then we can move on to some of the SaaS application stuff. So we're going to look at basics, and basics there's two elements of this. There's the explainer section that tells you what it's about, and then there's the associated exercise that goes with that concept. And then once we've done that, we can unlock this. Just to finish this all up and wrap it together, if we go back to the overview, we can see that unlocking this problem, finishing that problem, only unlocked the next problem. So we still have to do basics to get this going. There's a lot to do. So let's go to our syllabus, click on basics. I think this is the long stuff that we didn't do last time. Yeah, we looked at this briefly. There's a ton in there. I'm sure it's a lot of good information, but I'm going to jump straight to it. Guido's gorgeous lasagna. So Guido, if you don't know, is the name of the person who created Python, Guido van Rossum. He currently works for Microsoft, I believe, and is still doing stuff on Python. He actually went into retirement and then came back because he got bored and COVID, and so he came back and started doing stuff again. So he's still doing awesome work for the community. So it tells you what you're going to complete in the concepts tree if you do this exercise. There's the exercise we're doing. We've got our instructions, and we'll flip back and forth between the instructions and the code as we're working along. So I'm going to copy this, and we will paste that in, and then we'll navigate to Guido's gorgeous lasagna. Let's get out of here. Guido's gorgeous lasagna. Open up Vim, and then we'll open up our files. Do lasagna test and lasagna. All right, put them side by side. We'll run the test suite, and you'll see. All right, so already, so you can what I've been doing with Go, and this is a good. I think this is a useful pattern, is try to do what I've in the past called error-driven development, where you use the errors, especially knowing that this test suite is actually really good, typically for the exercises I've done in Go, and I trust that they'll be the same for Python as well. You can use these errors to guide what your solution needs to be, and that is an effective way to get through the problem. Now, before we do this, though, don't go straight to the errors. Actually, read the problem. What are we trying to do? So we're going to write some code to help us cook a gorgeous lasagna from your favorite cookbook. You have 5 tasks, all related to cooking your recipe. All right. Define expected bake time in minutes. Define an expected bake time constant that returns how many minutes the lasagna should bake in the oven. According to your cookbook, the lasagna should be in the oven for 40 minutes. All right. So we can go over here, and then we've got a to-do. So let's do it. Expected bake time equal 40. So this is I guess a module level constant. Python will let you put variables just about anywhere, and it's at each file is a module. So this is because this is a variable at that scope, it is considered a module level variable. So we can delete that. We can run our tests, and then it's saying cannot do something else because we're missing something else. It's still missing, it's still trying to do some imports. Let's go back. So that's number 1, and they start off pretty gentle, and ramp up over time. So I'm not surprised that this is not terribly difficult. So we need to calculate the remaining bake time. So we need a function that takes the actual minutes the lasagna's been in the oven, and as an argument, and returns how many minutes the lasagna still needs to bake. Okay, sounds pretty easy, right? So bake time right now is just a pass, and we need it to take the actual minutes. So we need elapsed. Now they're telling us, notice here, they've even given us documentation strings of what they would like us to call these variables. We can call it elapsed bake time, if I could spell bake time. And bake time remaining is going to be what? It's going to be the expected bake time minus the elapsed, right? Let's do that as a simple thing. Well, I'm hoping that they have some good tests in here to show how this might fail, because there are things that you could think about, inputs that could come into this that would mess this up. And then we can delete that pass. We don't actually need it. All right. Now we still don't have all of the right functions to find, so we need more stuff. Let's carry on. Let's assume that we've got bake time remaining done. Calculate preparation time in minutes. Implement the preparation time in minutes function that takes the number of layers you want to add to the lasagna as an argument and returns how many minutes you would spend making them. Assume each layer takes 2 minutes to prepare. All right, so that one seems pretty reasonable as well. So we can do def preparation time in minutes. I don't know how I picked that up. Oh, it must be picking up from the test file. And then it takes layers as a number of, as the input, right? That's the parameter. And so they say you can define a constant. I guess let's just follow suit. We've got preparation time, which they told us was 2 minutes. So we can get rid of that to do. And now we can say that the preparation time in minutes is going to be equal to layers times preparation time, right? We can get rid of that to do. All right, I think the tests are still going to pass because we still haven't defined this last function, which is probably expecting to import. Yep, it's elapsed time in minutes. So let's carry on. Calculate total elapsed cooking time, prep plus bake in minutes. So it's essentially trying to show function composition here, where the number of layers is the first argument, and elapsed baking time is the second argument. So we have this; those two arguments should go into our other functions, right? And then the function returns the minutes you've been cooking. All right, straightforward enough. So we're going to take define elapsed time in minutes. What do they want us to call it? Number of layers. Number of layers. And elapsed bake time. All right. And so what should this be? This should be the summation of the two functions. Summation of the two functions called together, right? So we want to do return. Let's do the preparation time first, I guess. And logically, I think about you want to prepare the lasagna before you bake it. So we'll do preparation time in minutes, and we'll provide number of layers as the argument, and then we'll add bake time remaining with the elapsed bake time. All right. Get rid of these to-dos. Now, I have black, so it just formatted those things and wrapped it. Okay, so now if we run the test suite, whoops, we calculated stuff incorrectly. So, where did I go wrong? Ha, even on simple tests, I got it wrong. Which is why you test things well and you pay attention. Update the recipe with notes. Adding notes. Is that really what I want to do? So the one area where I haven't done a whole lot with Exercism is I've been more focused on actually learning the language. So I'm trying to learn Go, right? So there is commentary in there about adding documentation and doing that, which I do agree is a good thing to do. But for a lot of my learning purposes, I've been trying to teach myself the core of the language, and I'm not trying to communicate as much. So writing detailed documentation, while I think it is a valuable exercise, and I can see why they try and encourage it, I don't know how much of that I'd be doing. So we may do that, but let's first figure out what's going on here, because I clearly messed something up. Seems like, so that's 3 times 2, that's 6, and then 40 minus 20 is 26. So what did we do wrong here, I wonder? And then sometimes when you have a bunch of failing tests, it is nice to have something side by side. So I'm going to go over here and run PyTest this way. All right, so 47 is not equal to 37. Expected 15 minutes elapsed, but the time was calculated incorrectly. Oh, goodness. Layers, 11, time, 15. So that should be, and my answer was 47. My answer was too big. I'd expected 37. And just to convince myself that that's the case, this should be 11 times 2. So it should be 22 2 minutes for that. And then they're saying it should be 37 total. So you would expect this to be 15. Are these all off by 10? What am I doing wrong? So I'm pretty sure I got this part right with the preparation time in minutes. Maybe there's maybe go through each of these and see if we got each of these tests right. So let's do that. Yep. We got this. Preparation time in minutes. So you can kind of check each of the tests to see where your particular function is wrong. So they're pretty good about being granular. So elapsed time in minutes, it says, is wrong. What did I do? Elapsed time in minutes. How much time has elapsed? Preparation time times number of layers. And all right. We don't have doc strings either. That's cool that they have a test for that. Interesting. Okay. Now with PyTest, you can also do, you can give it a test file like this, and then you can do a double colon, and then the test class. So this would be Lasagna test. Lasagna test. Just going to run all of them. So that's not very useful, but if you want to run a specific test, then you do another colon, or double colon, and pick the test that you want to run. So we can say test elapsed time in minutes. So we can scope the test output down to just the stuff that we want. And you can even go further than that and give the right syntax to get these variations, but I find that that gets to be a big pain. Kwali, welcome. So tonight I'm working on, I'm doing two things. We're doing a little bit of work with a website called Exercism, which is a practice website for learning how to code. And you can learn a bunch of languages. I'm going to go through Python as something that I know, and I'm taking it from an experienced person's mindset and seeing how it goes. And then once that's done, which I thought this would be done already, but I'm hitting some test failures that I wasn't expecting. Then we'll get back to the actual homeschool project and look at some stuff there. So I just thought I'd mix it up tonight with a little bit of different stuff. All right, so one of these tests, all of these tests are failing. All the 5 of the variations. So it must mean I've got the core logic wrong. We can look at how the test itself is constructed to see what they think it should be. Oh, is it just oh my goodness gracious. I see what I'm doing wrong. I didn't need to call the second function. So it's look at what the problem is saying. It's just saying how much time has passed. So it's the number of layers is the preparation time. Man, this is I guess what they're trying to teach is pay attention, don't just make guesses, which is what I was doing. Silly me. So we're going to do elapsed bake time and then delete that. Okay, we're closer. Now we just need the documentation string. So that was definitely the problem. I made an assumption, an invalid assumption, that we needed to sum these things together, but I wasn't paying attention. It's just saying how much time passed. And they give you some of the time that's passed. And you can calculate the other times that's passed with how much time it took to prepare. All right, so to finish off the test, we can say, what can we say? Get the time required to prepare lasagna layers. I'm going to keep the docstring simple. I honestly disagree. Well, all right. What they're showing here with this style and this very particular format, which I'm sure they talked about on their main basic concepts page, is how you can document your arguments document your, I guess they're technically parameters when they're up here in the definition. So you can document your parameters with what they are. And you can also document the return type. And I think there's some value in doing this, especially if you're like a library author and you're writing something that's going to be consumed by a lot of people. But there's also some stuff that renders a bunch of this really unnecessary. And the thing that renders this unnecessary is that in modern versions of Python, you can do optional typing. So you can see here that it has the type listed as an int. Well, you can be more explicit and you can get better tools to check on this by adding the type annotation here. And then you can add another one to say that the return type is going to be an int. This is actually, in my opinion, better than reading it in the documentation. Why? The reason why is because tools can tell you if you're being honest. If you ever call this something wrong and you try and pass in, let's say, a none instead of an integer, then a tool like MyPy that can run against this and see this type information can say, no, you can't do that because the function has declared that it's only expecting an integer. And when you put this kind of information into a documentation string, some documentation tools could generate this, which is useful, but you don't get that type checking information, which makes it less useful. So I have a feeling there's probably documentation generators now that can operate without this type stuff listed here. Like maybe you can do this. I don't really know. So maybe you can get the best of both worlds by documenting what the argument, or excuse me, what the parameter is, and then leaving the type up here where a type checker can give you extra information, but I don't know. So let's just leave the type annotations there. It's not hurting, and this is illustrative, so it's not like I'm not going to be asking any mentor for advice here. We could also put this stuff here and say int and do an int, and so on and so forth. It's not really that helpful in this particular set of problems, especially since the stuff is so small in the solutions. The other thing that I'm surprised that they didn't do, that the Go stuff is doing regularly to me, is check for some kind of boundary conditions. Like this just assumes that you're going to pass in real numbers, and maybe this will come in later. But there's nothing saying that you couldn't pass in a -4 right now. So you could have -8 minutes of preparation time. And so they don't really do a good job of guarding your code at this stage, but maybe that's because it's really, really early in this process. So let's put in one more. Get the total elapsed time for preparing or making lasagna in minutes, I guess. Keep the unit in there. Now we should have all the tests passing. I've got some warnings here. That's kind of annoying, but so we don't get the nice green. We got a yellow instead, but I can't really control that. I'm not gonna fix their code in that way. Okay. Okay, so I think we're done. I think we've got the solution going. I think what we're going to do next is submit the exercise. We're going to submit lasagna.py, and then we'll come back up here And here's where actually you can get more. Ooh, we'll have to look at what this is too. I don't know what this is. Dig deeper. That's something new I haven't seen. So once you've submitted, you can go to your solution. You can get the information, like I said. You can see that this is passed. You can see information about the test results if you wanted to. So they rerun your test on their system to make sure that your stuff is correct there too, and that you're not just cheating and trying to submit broken stuff locally. So they validate all of that. It's actually kind of a cool, I don't know if they've changed that user interface or if it's just different for Python. That's cool. So we've got our solution that somebody can review. And here's where I think Exercism really is awesome. You can go to community solutions. And from here, you can look at other ways that people have done this. So you can see who has the most stars. There's some that have more comments. Now, frankly, at these early stages, there's probably not going to be a lot of variation between the solutions because they're so narrow. But as you get to later problems, they get more interesting. With a critical eye, like I'm looking at this stuff, like this person needs to add some white space, but this person needs to add less white space. Like you can really start to get a sense of what good Python code can be. Although, some of these I'm like, what are they doing? Oh, you know what it was? This little preview thing is not showing comments. Wow. So that makes it look weird in the preview, but it's right there. Okay, so they did fine. So we got the comment. So here's some, and you're gonna find maybe some weird stuff out there too. Like not every solution is amazing. So come at it from a critical eye yourself and be like, what would I have done differently? For me, looking at this is like, this is weird that this is five spaces indented. Or either that or it's rendering weird. Maybe that's the case. Come on. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, I think. Yeah. So you can see it's not quite lined up. So typically Python says do 4 space indents. That's in PEP 8, the style guide. So this is strange, but it works because there's only one line here, and Python doesn't care as long as all of the lines that are at the same scope are grouped with the same indentation. It would have failed if this person had a 4 indented thing and a 5 indented thing. And then they did it right this time. So it must have just been a typo. I also don't think I'd put a space between the ending triple quotes, but I don't remember if Black does that automatically or not. Let's see. No. See, so the benefit of having it locally and configuring your tools properly is that all of that sort of style stuff that I'm nitpicking on right now, it's just taken care of automatically because Black is just really cool. So, but looking at their solution, like they're doing fine. It's I think character for character, the same as mine in many ways. It doesn't have the type check, the type hint at the top though. So you can look through those. You can check out a bunch of them. I'm not going to check out many for this one, and do that. Then if you want to, you can go ask for mentoring if you're stuck on a problem. Like they do expect you to try and do it yourself and have a submission, so they can't mentor just if you have no solution at all. That doesn't work that way. Their goal is to make you try first before you try mentoring. But then once you do, you can go that path. I don't know what this dig deeper is though. Let's see what this is. There are no introduction notes. Oh, there are community videos. This is new, I think. They did some stuff. They launched a new community tab recently, and maybe they are expanding. Cool, I like it. All right, so we're done with that. And I'm going to mark it as complete and confirm my solution. And then it tells you, oh, we're done with basics, and we've unlocked Booleans and numbers, and we've unlocked new exercises. You can see that the tree is now got some solid lines. It's got some stuff. Once we do this one, apparently it's going to unlock a bunch of things, I guess. And same with bool, unlock a bunch of things. And if we go back to the overview, you can see information about how you're doing. And they have some cool little like credit kind of stuff. ASDFFDSA, you have a question. What is your question? Happy to hear it. Yep, that's exorcism for you. So we'll try. Why are they providing all this for free? That is a great question. I think they just want people to be able to learn. So if you go to the Exercism site, what you'll find, I don't remember what country they're registered in, but they are a nonprofit. You can learn about, here we go, about exorcism. So I am perplexed by how a site like this is out here. I mean, it just really speaks to the care and dedication of the people that are here. It's pretty amazing. It's pretty amazing that there are volunteers that are willing to help out, that they have such a well-done product. Like, it's really solid. But there is stuff in here about somewhere. I remember seeing that they're a nonprofit, and yeah, you can give to them if you are so inclined. It's probably a good way for teams to learn. And I bet there are a bunch of different organizations that help out. But frankly, it was I believe this person right here, Jeremy Walker, is the person who's running most of the show right now. It was originally started by, what is her? I don't even see her on here anymore. Maybe she's gotten quiet over the years, but she is a public figure in some way. So someone named Katrina Owen, who has some very popular Ruby talks and co-authored a very a well-known Ruby book, or it may not just be Ruby, but Ruby is like the primary language that is used in the examples, along with another well-known Ruby person whose name's Sandy Metz. And what's the book called? Oh goodness, I want to give this person credit because that is a good book that you should check out. So Katrina Owen and Sandy Metz. What did y'all author together? Phooey. 99 bottles of OOP. I knew it had something to do with that book or that song. But this is apparently, I've read other books that Sandy Metz has written, but I have not read this particular one. Yes, that is the name, 99 bottles of OOP. So that's object-oriented programming, which is kind of a funny title, but it is a good one. I don't know what site. I'm on Curious Healing. I'm not sure how I got here, but I believe this book is on a lot of different websites, and you can also find Katrina's talks on various RailsConf stuff. So she's a pretty well-known Rails developer and was heavily involved in here. It seems like she's stepped away from Exercism itself over time. I don't really know what her story is there, but I do appreciate that she invested so much time into making this really cool service. So hopefully that was interesting to y'all. If not, I apologize, but I'm thinking that this is something that we can do, maybe an exercise per stream, and generate something interesting out of here. So we can all learn something together and look at different community solutions. And it might take a while before we get to like really meaty stuff. So these first ones will be pretty introductory, but over time we'll build them up. Oh, you're very welcome. Thank you. Let's switch back to the SaaS stuff. So part of why I wanted to do Exercism, because I really didn't know what I was going to do this evening on the homeschool project. There's a lot of options here that we could do, and yeah, I'm kind of feeling aimless, but not solidly on a direction. So last time, I guess, as a refresher, we integrated Sentry. I've actually had this going for the past week. I've used some performance data. It's been pretty cool. I thought, so Sentry, if you look at the plan information, they give you like 10,000 transactions a month for free, which seemed like a very reasonable number for my handful of users. And I thought, oh, there's no way I'm going to get anywhere close to that. And then they sent me an email for the first week and said, you've used 5,000 transactions. And I'm like, what? That's insane. It turned out some bot had like spammed my homepage, the root URL for my site, and clocked in like 4,000 clicks in like an hour or something like that. So one of the things that I had to do was tune this so that it's not as friendly to bots anymore, which is kind of annoying, but hey, that's what I had to do. So I'll show that off quickly, how that worked, and then we'll get into a particular challenge to do. So when I set this up last time, we added Sentry to the site, and we set it with a tracing rate. I don't remember the exact setting name. It was trace, I think it might be traces rate or something. And then we set it to a value of 1.0, which is saying, give me 100%. Every time the website makes a request, send that information up to Sentry to do processing with it. And that's, I thought, was reasonable for my volume of traffic, but then I saw the numbers and said like, whoa, that's a lot of requests. So I changed my configuration to ignore the main site. And this was actually a little trickier than I thought it might be. I thought there might be more configuration options, but what you have to do is, if you want some kind of custom behavior, is you have to switch to this traces sampler function and provide a function that follows a certain interface and returns the rate that you want. And so that allows it to be variable per request. So of course you want this to be as fast as humanly possible, and makes decisions there. So what I was after is, whoops, I got a typo in here. Endpoint, Matt, not, I don't even know what I typed. Doint? Okay, no. Endpoint. So what they give you is a bunch of information. The sampling context is like all this data that's going to be sent, or potentially a lot of it that's going to be sent, and they allow you to make decisions on that. So part of that is the WSGI environment, since I'm running gUnicorn, which is a WSGI process, and I can inspect that and look for stuff in there. And all I wanted to do was get out the path info of that environment. And if it was equal to the slash, in other words, if it was the root thing, then I would say, make that 0. So don't send any of those, is essentially what I'm trying to do with this chunk of code here. So that was the change that I had to make. Otherwise, the integration has been just fine. It's been useful. I've looked at some stuff and haven't made any dramatic changes yet, but it does kind of validate what I thought was happening with the website. There's no real surprises in there for me. So still plug Sentry. It's still a cool tool. It's still satisfying to see that there's no issues. But that's what's going on there. Just thought I'd give a little quick update on how that went after the past week. Okay. So what should we do? Maybe let's try this one, where there are some PDF reports on the site, and one of the comments from my spouse was that the reports don't include page numbers, and it would be nice if they did, so that when she prints it out, she could have page numbers. That would be useful to her. I'm not judging why she would want that, but that's what she wants. So let's see if we can figure out how to do that. This is going to be one of those things that is hard to test, I think. We're just going to have to try some stuff out, see how it goes, and yeah, try some stuff out. First, let's see if we can actually generate a PDF and see where that's going to end up, because I actually don't know for local development on this new machine. Yeah, where's that? Let me think for a minute. We've got where's the media setup? Media. No, it's not media. Storages. Those are the secret keys that we won't be using. I still don't have any secrets in here, so there's nothing wrong with me showing you what's in this environment. But I'm looking for how is this actually configured so that when we actually try out local development, where is it going to put the PDFs? All right, you know what? Forget it. The easiest way to do this is just going to be try it out. So let's start the web server. And let's go to port 5000. Oh, come on. It's been a while since I logged in. What did I use as the account credentials? Bugger. I think I used something at Office. I used a super user account. And I think I did Matt. Oh, good. All right. Maybe for the future, let's look up what that user is so that I don't have to do that way anymore. Matt at Matt Lehman. Okay. I don't know that I'll remember that, but I'll try. Now let's go to the site and look at the app and go to our report section. See if we can generate a report and see where it will dump it to. So we've got, okay. Here's the other interesting aspect of this. The way that I have configured my site to work is that it doesn't have a background worker. That is on Heroku. It's using a scheduler. So it runs on the hour and checks, is there any bundle to generate? What we actually need to do is come into this school year and we can say create bundle. We're building your bundle and it should be ready within the hour. Well, yeah, it's going to be ready because I'm going to force it to be ready. So we'll come here and we need to stop the web server and say, no, yeah, John, no celery. Celery is powerful, but I definitely, frankly, it was a way to contain cost. Like I'm not making any money. I'm actually at a slight loss for this site every month, just because I've done a really poor job of marketing. I spend more time talking to y'all about how to make it better, which is fun for me, and it's serving the one customer that I care about, which is my own family. So I'm not really like looking to make a big business out of it. But because of that, I'm trying to keep the cost as much in control as I can. So what we're looking for is the command that will run the same as the what's on the scheduler right now, which I'm using. I switched to using the Django extension system, and there is a command that, yeah, here it is, run jobs. I think that's the one we want. So I have some jobs configured that is what's doing the automatic checking of the PDFs. We don't have to do this, but all right, we'll get to this in a second. Trying to think if this is what I want to do, because where's it going to store this? Well, we'll find out. I'm going to try and do the run job. It may store it locally, or it may not, or it may fail. I really don't know what's going to happen because I don't remember how Django storage is configured when I'm doing local development. If it blows up, then I have some other ways that we can do this and get some PDFs. Yes, run jobs is similar to cron jobs. Actually, run jobs doesn't care. Run jobs is like, well, what does it do? Run jobs has different like groupings that you can say, and so you can configure something to like run frequently and check, do I need to run this hourly job right now or this minute job? But really what I do is the scheduler on Heroku is what has the cron like syntax to say like, run this on the hour, run this every minute, run this every Friday, run this Sunday at 2 a.m., like whatever you want to do. That's what's in the Heroku scheduler. And what the Heroku scheduler expects is the command that you want to run, which in this case happens to be run jobs. So I think I say something like run jobs hourly, and then I have the job that I have is in an hourly bucket. In fact, let's go look for it. So there's this jobs. So you do this conventionally, and you can find all this on the Django extensions project. Django extensions. It'll talk about the jobs scheduling system as one of the main areas over here. And you can kind of see how this works. So you can either create a big jobs structure like this. I didn't really like this approach. I just made it. This felt like way overkill for me. So you put it in an app, and then once you're in the app, you can then have, it needs to inherit from a particular kind of job. I'm doing an hourly job. And then you can like list jobs too, I think. Yeah, let's see. It's been a while since I did this, so let's see if we can remember all this stuff. There is a way to get out what jobs do you have. So dot manage run jobs and see what the help is. You can do run jobs -L, and it shows you what's available. So we have here my custom build bundle command that will run hourly if you want. And then there are two that come with Django extensions to clean up various things. Yeah, if you're using the database session cache, that's what that first one is. And then there's some daily cleanup. I don't know what that daily cleanup does. I'd be interested to see. And then you specify like a parameter of which type of job do you want to run. So I think what we can do is say manage run. Well, what does the run job do? Does that run an individual job? Okay. So I could do this just if I want to be very specific, which I do in this case. Let's try it this way. Run job. And then it takes the app name, which is homeschool reports. And then it takes the job name, which is build bundle. See what happens. Womp womp. Yep, okay. So I'm not surprised this happened. For storing file objects, my website is configured to store stuff into Amazon AWS S3. AWS S3. Which I think stands for Simple Storage Service. Essentially, it's just a big bucket where you can dump files into. But you have to have it configured. And I haven't configured that with this local environment, so we can't actually store it up there. Now I could change that so that the local mode uses just a local directory to store files, but I don't feel like it. Or I don't feel like it for now. And I don't remember doing that myself. And I didn't see the option, so I'm pretty convinced that I didn't do any of that. Huh. Yeah, you can see here, I've got the media. This is where the media root is if you're like doing it locally, but I changed the default file storage to be this. So it's only using that one storage backend. So I could probably make this like a parameterized option, like an environment thing, that then I could control over here and use the local file storage. Maybe I should do that so that I don't have to test with Amazon in that way. All right, let's let the yak shave continue. So we'll do come up here and do default file storage, right? Yep. Default file storage. And we want this to be a string. Whoops. We want this, come on, Matt. We want this to be a string. and we want it to default to Bodo, or that Bodo 3 path. Let's come in here and we will yank all of that and put it in here. So if I do nothing, which is ideally what I want to do, I don't want to, the way I've set up my system is when I deploy to production, I don't want to have to configure production. I just want the defaults to be ready for production. So that's what this is doing with this default value. But I want to be able to override this with something else. I want to be able to use the built-in Django version, which will put files locally on my disk. So now we can come down, we can go back to default file storage. We need to change some stuff. So instead of doing this, we need to call env with default file storage. It's going to pull from that environment object instead of where it was before. Okay, so changing nothing. Let's go bring up the shell. And then we can say settings. I did shell plus because it automatically brings in the settings, I'm pretty sure. Default file storage. This should still be Bodo. It is. Good. So now we can configure the system to have an override when we're doing local development stuff. And so let's go to the Django documentation and look at, I don't know the path off the top of my head. So we want to do Django files. I think that's probably sufficient. Managing files. So we need media root and media URL. Default to an empty string. Man, that seems like a bad idea. If media URL is a relative path, then it will be prefixed. Oh, come on, tell me what it should be. URL that handles the media served from the media root. All right, I think there's a static URL comes with a prefix. So, all right, let's go back to this one. So we don't really need this, but I'm going to define it anyway. In case we wanted to check a file and serve it up from its file, like a file object path, that's why you would need this. All right, so in the environment sample, I now need to add default file storage, and we need to set it to whatever the backend is. So somewhere it'll say, there it is. They don't really give you a quick copy pastable thing. That's kind of annoying, but here it is. Well, I guess they do. It's in the URL, but it's like the most unobvious place. So Django documentation, I'm not here to knock the Django documentation. It's very good in most respects. But what it doesn't do a great job of is displaying like where it is in the Django project. You kind of have to know just from doing Django a long enough time that the permalink, the hash that they put up here, is the path, the module path that is in the code, which is really, really oddly specific knowledge. Like I doubt many people actually know that immediately. Anyway, so it's non-obvious. All right, I thought I copied that, but apparently not. Control Shift E, copy. Control V. What? Come on now. Control V? Command V. Oh, that would be the problem. I did Control V. What am I doing? Am I not like... I've been a Mac user for a long time. Okay. Goodness. So, we're going to come back here and drop this right here. And so now, let's go back to Shell Plus. Let's do the same. Does it remember? Nope. Settings, default, file storage. And you can see it's using the file system storage. Okay. We have changed the example and we've changed the settings file, but we're still not anywhere close to adding page numbers. But what we can try, hey Quatley, I'll get to your question in just a second, that's a good one. What we can try again is the same manage run job that we did a moment ago. With any luck, actually before we do that, let's check. So look, there is a media directory here. It has some files in it. I wonder why it has those. Okay, well, not going to think too hard about that. But that media directory is not under source control, which is good. So if you do add local file storage, make sure in your git ignore somewhere you should be ignoring media files, just like you should be ignoring your static files. You don't want to control that stuff because it's just meant to be output. So let's go back to our job that we were going to run. And with any luck, it will generate the bundle and put it in the proper directory now as a zip file. And it won't complain. Yeah, last time it blew up when it did that because it was trying to upload. It was using Bodo. If you're not familiar with Bodo, Bodo is the library that interacts with Amazon Web Services as the API. So it's trying to upload the zip file to the Amazon S3 bucket that I have configured typically. All right, I'll pause there for a second. Quatley, you're asking what package do I use for environment variables to settings? Yeah, the package I use is called, what is it called? It's very common. Environ. Yeah, Django Environ. I think I might even have a blog post about it somewhere. It's a good, solid package. There are others, but I've been pretty happy with it. Click on the documentation. Yeah, I must have written an article about it. There's my search stuff. Come on. Read the docs is not coming up. Maybe I'll just get my article. I think it was on page 2. There it is. Oh, that's a previous stream. Oh, that's old school. I've been using this since episode 39 of this stream, so that's like a few years ago. All right, not what I thought I needed to get though. I thought I'd written an article on it. Guess not. Let's try to read the docs again. Come on. There it goes. Okay. Well, they changed their documentation, I think. So Django Environment, what it does is it reads .env files by default if you have them, or gives you ways to do that. It has ways of transforming certain types of strings into information that you would connect to the database URL for Django and all sorts of cool stuff. It's a pretty solid package, and I would definitely recommend it if you're looking for how do I manage my environment. And why do you need to do that? Like, I think it's not obvious, because you might think, well, os.environ exists, right? So why not just use that? And the short answer is types are a thing. So you want to be able to do like Booleans and stuff, and real numbers. And if you don't have some tool like this that does some coercion, and coercion just means changing from one type to another, or attempting to, could fail, then you may not get the types that you want. So like you could have a string of false, and in Python, a string of false is truthy. I mean, we could just prove it right now. So if I do a bool on the string of false, that's going to be evaluate to true, which might surprise some of you. Maybe it doesn't. Hope it doesn't. But everybody's coming at this their experience from different points. So by having a package like that knows about type stuff, which is what I'm doing when I'm saying bool and int, I'm hinting to the package tool, this is what I want this kind of data to be. Try and convert it to this, please. That's what we get out of here. Okay, so and then you can see there's some stuff about reading from the env file if it exists and so on. Hope that answers your question quietly. Okay. Now we've got that zip file somewhere. It's going to be buried in the media directory. Maybe not. Let's see. Tree media. Oh my goodness. New computer. I need tree. Okay, try again. There we go. What are these? DAT files? What DAT about? Wow. Oh, you know what I bet these are? I bet these are every time I run my unit tests. Oh, dang. How big is this already? That's just going to make my tests slower and slower over time. All right, they're tiny for now. It's okay. I've been in some companies that needed to generate some pretty big files and had them in unit tests, and there was some like cleanup that was necessary to make sure the tests stay fast. Because if you get too many files in this directory, it does start to slow things down. Probably should have some like periodic cleanup thing. Okay, so looks like the file is in this path. Media, users one bundles, WLM, blah, 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 blah. So let's open media, users one, bundles, open that. And then from here, one of these is the real one that we just generated. Oh, where are you? See, that's 6 bytes. That's tiny. That's not the real one. One of these had no prefix on it. Where'd it go? Oh, come on. I am not making that up, right? It's bundle? Yeah, bundle 22. There it is. Last one. 6 bytes? What? Maybe it's that small. Unable to expand? Oh, that's not good. All right. Let's do this. There are other ways that we can get this. This is kind of the really, really backwards way to do this, or really roundabout, but this should work. If I go into the office and I go to our bundles section, report bundles, and I can see this is now generated. It's this file right here. And all right, so it's this ZQ. So it must be, I don't remember why I'm adding this in there. I think I needed the ID because there could be conflicts between multiple school years. I just don't know. What? We've got that. Media. Am I not serving the media directory? Maybe I'm not. Shoot. Well, at least we know which one we're looking for. ZQ. So we'll say open all of that stuff from before. No, school desk, DQ. There it is. Okay. Wow, took me 30 minutes just to get to that. But one of these is hopefully long enough. Might have to generate another one of these. That would be so sad. Okay, this one's got multiple pages. So, finally, getting back to the problem, right? Oops, I realize that's out of frame. Whoop. And whoop. My spouse has requested that this be numbered. Now, I hope you'll agree with me that these are not like complex PDFs by any stretch. They're not fancy at all. So we don't need something fancy. We just need a number. Ideally, by the look of me, the way I see it, is a number centered at the bottom would be chef's kiss. So let's try and figure out how to do that. So what we need to do is look at the technology that I'm using for PDFs and find out if it can do numbers on the bottom. And they might say that it's a CSS thing, because a lot of the stuff that I'm doing with this is powered by CSS, in which case we'll need to write a little bit of CSS and incorporate it in there. But the technology that we're using is called Wheezy Print. Oh, with an S apparently. Wheezy Print. And it's a cool tool. Yeah, there's always that possibility, John, that she wants something a little different from what I had in my head that she actually wanted. So we might need to be able to say 1 of 3, 1 of 2 of 3, 3 of 3. That's right. Let's just, for the moment, assume that it's just a pure page count, and that should be sufficient. We're looking at Wheezy Print's documentation. There's a bunch of stuff in here. Let's just see if we can find it directly by searching. All right. Common use cases. I saw it there. Did you see it? Page number. There is much more which can be achieved with using the page at rule, such as page numbers, headers, etc. Read more about the page at rule. Now, look where they're taking us. This is, I don't know if you can tell that quickly, but that's the URL to MDN. In other words, we're going to CSS land, baby. We have to do page at rule is a CSS at rule used to modify different aspects of a printed page property. It targets and modifies the page's dimensions, page orientation, and margins. The page at rule can be used to target all pages in a printout or even specific ones using its various pseudo classes. Okay. Now, surely, well, maybe not, but we'll scan this page for seeing how to do a page number. So here's how you set the size and some margin information if you wanted to make it smaller. I don't really know how that's going to play nicely with like Chrome or Firefox, like the page print controls on there. I'm not really sure. We'll see. So we can specify size, and that's one of them. You can't change all CSS properties. Don't care. Formal syntax. Don't care. Page properties. Biddy properties? What is that? I have no idea. Border. Cool. Counter properties. That sounds promising. Counter reset, counter increment. If I were going to do page numbers, that's probably something I might reach for. Outline properties, padding properties, quote, text properties, visibility, width properties, margin, at rules. Oh, thank you, John. Bidirectional, biddy. Learn something new every day. All right, so I think so far, scanning through this, if I were to think of what we need, it seems like we'd say something like, need a CSS rule for at page, and then bottom center. Feels like where I would put a page number. Now, how do we put a page number in there? Page margin properties. Didn't we just see this list? Counter properties, height properties. I think it's slightly different because I don't remember the Z index being on there. Examples. Article, blah, blah, blah. Page pseudo class examples. First. Oh, really? Come on, MDN. All right. We're at least in the right region of the world, though. So let's do a search. So CSS print page number. Probably should have just done this first. Print page numbers on page when printing HTML. Sounds like what we're after. Because I guess I wasn't very clear. So why are we even looking at CSS when we're talking about PDFs? WheezyPrint, what it does fundamentally is like it has a browser engine in it. It's not like a full browser. It's not like headless Chrome or something like that. But it has a rendering engine in it that is designed to take some HTML, like a template, so standard sort of Django stuff. And essentially you take the context and a template and you smash them together like you normally would for a Django view. And you take your HTML and then pump that into WheezyPrint. And you need to give WheezyPrint the HTML to work with and the CSS that you want to use. And it takes those things, and mashes those together and generates a PDF in the right format that kind of corresponds to your HTML and your CSS. So what we're trying to do is give WheezyPrint's rendering engine enough CSS information to print page numbers. That's what we're really after here. So that's the full thinking. All right. Now sometimes I like Stack Overflow, but sometimes the answers, especially when stuff is related to CSS, gets really dated. Like this person responded to this question in 2013. Oh my word, CSS has changed a lot in that time period, so we should be careful about saying what is and is not supported. For this answer, we are not using at page, which is a pure CSS answer. So like, okay, let's continue the yak shave. How can you find out if something is supported? There's a great website. It's called Can I Use? caniuse.com. So we can, once you're here, you can type in different properties about DOM APIs, web APIs, CSS stuff, and see a compatibility matrix of which browsers are going to support what you need. Let's try typing in at page, and you will get some answers. So, at page. Paged media. CSS at rule, at page. Now this is surprising that Safari still today does not support at page. That's bizarre. So Microsoft Edge has supported this since 2015. Chrome has supported this since 2010. This is where I'm getting at, like with checking on Stack Overflow. Sometimes Stack Overflow is just, it was useful information at the time, but then doesn't become. Firefox has been supporting this since 2013. Remember, that answer was from 2013. So while this one has the check on it, doesn't mean you should necessarily use it. We'll read it here in a minute, but I want to like jump down and see if there's like a better way to do this. This might be it. Can we just do this? Oh, look at that. Wheezy print. Wait. Wheezy prints? I don't think that's what they meant. I'm still using Wheezy print because I need a bundle. But let's see. This counter page thing, this is what's new to me. Like I didn't know that this was a thing. Let's take this whole chunk. I'm probably not gonna keep the counter pages. Yeah, it's got the total page. I don't know that if I want it or not. We'll see. We'll try it out. We'll experiment with some stuff. And I'll also at the time show how we can view these PDFs without resorting to generating those bundles. I forgot I'd made some tools specifically for this purpose. Okay, we need to go to the PDF section. There's a PDF section in my project where I make all this stuff, and you can see what I have added. We've got, I had to modify, oh, let me back up. You can see here that I am using Site CSS. Site CSS is built from Tailwind, which is the CSS framework that I use for my site. And I use that because I wanted to try and reuse templates as much as possible and just let, hopefully, Tailwind's classes do their thing. In the process, you can see I discovered a problem with Tailwind. Tailwind was using a different font, and it was causing like really weird rendering errors with numbers. That's why I have this little addition. So essentially, the way you can think about this is that I read in all of the CSS, I open it up and I stuff it into a file, and then I tack on a little bit more CSS at the bottom to change the font to Arial. And what I need to do now is we're going to take that page stuff just like this. I think what I'm going to try and do is make it a one-liner because CSS doesn't care. I could do it this way. That should be fine. And then take CSS content and do plus equal, and then throw a new line on there just to make it a little clearer if I have to look at it later. And then something like that. Oops. Oh, rats. Need to do single quotes. Okay. So now we've got our new rule here, and that's not going to be really obvious or apparent. I do want to put this in the center. I don't know. Something about center feels good to me. It's bottom left. Bottom left? Really? They wanted to put the page number? Whatever. Think about like reading a book. When you open up a book, all right, for those of you that are like English speakers, I guess, you're in Japan or some of these other countries, your answer is going to be different, I know, but if I'm reading a book, the first page of a chapter, page number is like always on the bottom right, isn't it? Anyway, so we're going to try bottom center and maybe just avoid that altogether because I don't want to have the alternation. I don't want to have to figure that out. And I don't want, it does seem weird to me if you had 3 pages and they were all in the bottom left. Seems bizarre. So if we can just center it, I think that'll be a decent enough answer. So we're going to give a comment here so I know what the heck is going on, because this is, I mean, I'd be able to figure it out, but I want to not have to make my brain read the CSS to process that. We'll say add page numbers. Okay. Time to go to our admin tools. So we'll start here, load up the website. We'll go back. Oh gosh, where did it go? We'll go back to the site, see which report we need to look at, and then we'll look at the admin tools that are comparable. I need the report that was multiple pages. Not all of them were doing that. No grades yet, so that's not the one. The attendance report. Okay. This definitely will have enough to have multiple pages on the PDF. So now that we know it's the attendance report, let's open up, not the office. The office is the Django admin. I have some custom tools that I've written on this dashboard page. And one of them is about PDFs. We've got some attendance reports, and it takes this ID. And I didn't write any guards on this because it's an admin only kind of page. We can paste that in there. We can hit generate. And we've got, oh, nice. Look at that. So pretty. 1 out of 3. All right, the font's a little big. How much do I care? Don't. All right, I think we did it. Way later than I anticipated we would, but we did it. One of the things that I'm torn about with these PDF tests is there's not a good way to test this. Like, I can't test that I got this right. So I kind of have to rely on the fact that CSS is right here. Maybe I want to try one change, because it does feel a little crunched. Let's try doing this. I don't think this will work for multiple spaces because of the way CSS works, but I suspect we can get a couple of spaces there just to make it a little more balanced. So that should have restarted. Yep. So would have restarted this. And because I have those tools, I can come back to this page and hit generate again. Open up the tab. Ooh, much better. That feels way better. 1 out of 3. 2 out of 3. 3 out of 3. Awesome. Okay. Aaron, good question. I will let me think on how to respond to that for a moment. I'm gonna finish up this this commit, and then I'll answer your question, I promise. So, getting back to what we did, we added this so that local stuff will use the file system storage, and we added our chunk of CSS that turned out to be a really nice and easy change on WheezyPrint's part. Thank you, CSS. Had to configure some stuff in the settings file, and I fixed a typo. I think that's it, right? Pretty cool. So we'll say in a minute, once pre-commit gets going, there it goes. Add page numbers to PDFs. And this fixes number 616. I guess I should run the test suite, make sure that the tests are running properly. I don't know why anything would break, but good sanity check. And then we'll push that up. Okay, Aaron, to get to your question, why did I choose Tailwind? Tailwind's this really bizarre kind of project. At first, when you check it out, especially if you have any past web development experience, it feels like, what the heck is this? Why would I want to put CSS classes on everything? And maybe some of you have never seen Tailwind before. So actually, let's bring up an HTML template just so we have something to compare it to. I don't know. School year. Let's go to the school year page. School year detail page. There's a bunch of stuff in here. So initially, if you've never seen Tailwind, but you have done some HTML, and you come to this, you might be like, what is this? This is crazy town. Like all of these CSS classes added to different elements, different tags, and so many. It almost seems really repetitive, and it is repetitive. I guess to be clear, I'm not here to knock Bootstrap, and I'll explain why I didn't use Bootstrap in a minute. So my feeling with Tailwind is that I am both very productive and very in control with Tailwind. When I'm using Tailwind and I'm taking advantage of some of my past CSS knowledge, it becomes really easy for me to make CSS designs and make the things that I want, because I never have to leave the HTML file. And I think that is, for me, that's a huge amount of the beauty of Tailwind, is that you can customize. And I think of it like digital clay is like maybe the best term that I could come up with it, in that you work with the product right there. It's all right there. Everything you need to do is just right in front of you. And if I compare that to other flows, let's compare it to Bootstrap. So Bootstrap has a great set of widgets and things, right? Like little boxes and sliders and well, I don't know if they have sliders, but there's a bunch of things that come with Bootstrap that are sort of pre-built, and that's fine. That's really powerful. As long as you set your classes right and put your things in the right position, you can go really fast with Bootstrap. Where I think Bootstrap might struggle a little bit is when it comes time to customize for certain situations. And if you don't have any need to do any of that customization, you can be fabulously productive with Bootstrap and make really good looking sites too. Like it's a good product. But what I've found is that when I needed to go do something more special, I needed to suddenly have multiple things up. And this leads to, actually there's a really interesting article by the guy who writes HTMX. Let me see if I can figure out. I'm going to search for something. Let's see if I can find it. HTMX locality of behavior. Yeah. So I will nudge all of you. I mean, you don't have to read anything I give you, of course, but this is a good article if you're interested. And it talks about this concept of, sometimes in computers, in design, we talk about separating things, putting each thing in its place, where we've got our styles over here and our templates over here and our logic over here and this over there, and stuff gets spread out. And sometimes the challenge with that is that it is spread out. And so if you want to get the complete picture, you have to go pull from all the things and load them in your head and then get the idea. Sorry, I'm drawing a blank on his name. Anyway, the author of HTMX, I apologize for not remembering your name. I've seen you on many podcasts, but anyway, he essentially argues that actually what you really want is locality of behavior. And that's trying to take all of these things that you had to load into your head and just have them be there together. So if that is a chunk of template with its styles and some of its behavioral logic all grouped, then so be it. That the fact that it might be a bit more jumbled feeling doesn't really matter, because what you really need to produce anyway is often that jumbled picture. Like that's the real code. That's actually what is all there. I'm not saying it nearly as well as the author has here, so I do encourage you to read this article. I think it's a really interesting idea. And so Tailwind and HTMX and Django templates, they all kind of try and put this concept of what is your user interface, and it blends those things together so that that you only have to work in this one place and you work really quickly and adapt. I don't know if I have any HTMX in this particular file. Where would HX? No. Let's search for some HX and see if I can give you a better example. So all of this stuff kind of starts to blend together for certain things. Like here I'm doing some dynamic actions and I'm doing some styling and I'm saying what this is and I've got icons. And for someone who is not experienced with these tools, this might be like super overwhelming. Like, holy crap, he's got CSS here, and then some Django template stuff here, and then there's some HTML fragments here, and like HTML attributes here, and SVG, and it's like, whoa. And it can be. It takes a moment. But I like the fact that as the professional who's working on this, like I come in here and I can process this and I know these things, and it might take a second to like orient myself, but I can very quickly be like, this is the place where I'm doing a task deletion, and here's everything, all of the control flow that's needed to make this work. So that's a big part of why I think Tailwind is cool. It is one element into that layering system that helps lets me make components quickly. I hope that is a reasonable answer, at least for you, Aaron. I don't know if it answers everything you've got on there. If you've got any other thoughts that you want me to expand on, I'm happy to do so. But that's part of why I like Tailwind. I guess to round it out, Tailwind has a lot of really good documentation too. So there's good docs, and an aspect that I love about it is it's really easy to copy. Now, I'm not saying steal other people's stuff, but if you want to get ideas of what to do and then modify it and fit it into your own project, the fact that all of these classes are inline and that everybody has the same bucket of tags and classes to work from means that if you see something and you copy it, there's a good chance that it's going to work the same way. I'll be really transparent about this. Let's give an example of where I took an idea that I thought was nice, and this person is in a very different market than me, so I didn't feel bad about it at all. But I found this kind of like punch out look here, like where I've got my image, and it's got the background kind of almost looks like it's been punched out of a piece of paper or something like that. And I've got these borders that are offset. And I saw that and I was like, that is cool. I really like what that is. And I found it. There's a piece of software out there called, I never remember how to spell it, SavvyCal? I'm going to get that spelling wrong. No U. Let's see if he's changed it by now. He might have. But this person is a podcast I would listen to called Art of Product. The primary developer on here is actually, here's his icon right here. His name is Derek Reimer. And here it is. You can actually see his little punch out pattern. Looks like he has actually made it even cooler. So let me turn off Flux for a second so I can actually see this. But he's even added to it. There's a gradient here now that wasn't in there in the past. So he's got this like bright yellow over here to orange. But when I was making my page, yeah, he's changed a lot of this, but what you could do is with Tailwind is you can just inspect it and you can see, and I literally, like, I think the first time I did this, I copied the tags, and you can like copy the node. You can take the whole outer HTML, and since it was Tailwind, I plopped it into my own template. Now, parts of it didn't work because he had links to local images and stuff that I didn't have. But as soon as I replaced that, I got the style that, I mean, look, you can see. Now I modified it, I tweaked it for my colors and all of that stuff, and I tried to make it my own and put my own images in there. So, and like, again, we're in very different markets, so I'm not feeling guilty about what I did. But I was able to borrow a really good idea. What is it? What's the phrase? Good artists copy, great artists steal. I think is that the phrase? So that's what I did, and it was pretty rewarding to do that. And I think Tailwind really enables that in ways that some other frameworks cannot. Hey, Stephen. Yeah, good questions there. Thoughts on Bulma? Honestly, it's been a while. I'm gonna get Dragon Ball Z reference, aren't I? Man, that brings me back. So I used to be in high school, I used to be a big anime fan and watched a lot of Dragon Ball Z, which is, you can go back and I don't know if any of you are into anime at all, or maybe you still are. But you can distill an entire Dragon Ball Z episode down into like maybe 4 minutes, really, if you take out all like the breaks and overlap and stuff. Or at least the ones that they packaged for Cartoon Network when I watched them as a kid. It was pretty drawn out with a lot of cartoons, but that's what it was. Anyway, Bulma. Let me try and remember what it is. Is this another? It's also a component one. Is that right, Shivan? Never-ending power levels imposed. Oh yeah, good memories. Let me take a look here. Is it? So it's got utility classes, CSS framework. I do remember looking at Bulma and thinking like, oh, this is pretty cool. It felt a lot like Bootstrap to me, if I recall. Yeah. So I remembered, so I did something similar to this at my previous job. So I currently work for a healthcare company. It merged with another company, so it's now called Included Health. But when I started, it was Doctor on Demand. And before that, I worked for a company called Storybird, which it was an educational SaaS stuff. It was teaching, still is, it's still around. It teaches kids how to become better writers. It gets used in classrooms and teaches kids to write by bringing art and writing together in a cool way. And when I was there, I learned a ton at that particular job. I was there for about 4 years, and it taught me Django and all sorts of other cool stuff. Oh, thanks, Steven. And what was I about to say? Oh yeah, so we were doing CSS stuff, and we were doing a lot of what you see today. And it reminds me of actually a lot of Bulma, and that it had, what we did was we had some core components. We essentially built up, what's the language they use today? Storybooks, like that kind of a design language of here's our set of components. We had a page. This was before Storybook existed. This was like many, many years ago. And we had a rough set of components to work with. Here are the standard classes that you need to use. But what really made it work ultimately is a lot of these kind of mix-ins, these little things that you add that can tweak the behavior of components. Because straight up Bootstrap had some challenges with, like, I need to modify the spacing here, or I need to give it a little bit more padding here, and those were a little bit harder to do. So we had this set of components and a set of like mix-ins, and those things added together gave us a lot of power. So I think that was a pretty powerful combination. And so if Bulma is anything like that, I'm sure it's pretty solid. Again, I'm kind of fully on the Tailwind boat at this point, but it looks like a solid tool. All right, let me look through these other comments. Oh, she even said something. I know you left, but playing around with Flask. I don't know. I think it's just the default port that comes with GUnicorn, actually. So, Steven, if you're coming back and checking the video on here, that's where I got it from. I don't think I did anything special there. I switched, so I'm not using the Django run server, which is port 8000 or something, but I believe the default port when you run GUnicorn is to put it on 5000. Could be wrong on that, but that's my thought. All right, y'all. It's been fun. Hopefully you've learned something here tonight. Thank you for the interesting discussion. I appreciated it. We will next time. I'm trying to think. Maybe not next week. I think I have a meetup next week. But the next time I stream, we'll get back to doing more Exercism. We'll start on that as like the first half and do some discussion about how to learn about Python and check on the solutions and stuff that are there and walk through them and talk through them. And then we'll get back to some more SaaS stuff. So with that being said, I want to thank all of you for watching. If you can give a like, that'd be awesome. I do want to thank my patrons that I've got here. So call out their names: Rupert, Andrew, Dragos, Ryan, Patrick, Eric, Fred, Aaron, Philip, Miguel, Shivan, and Monty. Y'all are awesome. Thank you. You help enable me to buy various equipment that I can make this stream setup better. I promise that it is getting better over time. It just takes time to get all this stuff going. And I will have this video up so that you can go refer back to it. If you want to check out more streams, they are online at, well, you're already here on YouTube. So it's this website. There's a playlist that you can check through and go through all of my past streams. This particular project, I got a note here, started all the way back at stream number 38. So if you want to see how the homeschool project started from the beginning, you're welcome to do so. But otherwise, that's it for me this evening. Take care.